our longtime friend, three-time Pro Bowler, and courtesy, joining us right now, former Heisman Trophy winner, courtesy of Level Select OTC, Carson Palmer, back here on the program. How you been, Carson?
I'm great, Rich. Thanks for having me.
20 years ago, huh? You were the first overall pick. It's 20 years.
You didn't need to make me feel that old. That's a long time ago.
No. But you were young when you were drafted, Carson. Now you're just...
I was a young whippersnapper.
You're just more aged now. You're the fine wine. I understand that. I'm old because I remember when you got drafted. So what was that draft night like for you, Carson?
Well, it was weird because I had already signed, prior to the draft, I had already signed a contract with the Bengals. And so I knew I was going there. I walked into the green room and full of guys hoping, to get drafted, as high as possible. A lot of stress, a lot of worry. And I remember I'm already signed. I'm done. I'm going to hang out. I'm going to enjoy this. We're going to celebrate. We're in New York City, and then I'm going to fly off to Cincinnati. So I didn't have the stress of the green room that you see on these guys' faces and their family members' faces and their agents' faces. I had signed 2 or 3 days before the draft, and I already knew where I was headed.
And that was back in the day when this was a negotiation, though. I mean, was there any issues with your negotiation? With obviously you wound up signing, but what was that process like after the evaluation? Now there was a business aspect of it. I mean, that's the way it used to be.
Oh man, the negotiations with the Bengals brass is always interesting and always challenging. But I had a great agent in Dave Dunn of Athletes First, who has a number of high draft picks and number one draft picks and the Aaron Rodgers of the world. So I had a really skilled agent, and we were able to get a deal done. I mean, they were excited about it. I was excited about it, and we were able to get it done before the draft. And like I said, it was a stress-free draft day for me. The part that was interesting was back when Paul Tagliabue was the commissioner. So he comes out. Mm-hmm. Everybody in the audience, I think we were at Radio City Music Hall, everybody in the audience knew. It was on every news line and news feed that I was going to the Bengals number one. It was already a done deal. And so Tagliabue comes out to the mic and he says, with the number one pick of the 2003 NFL draft, the Bengals are on the clock. And he turns around and walks away. And everybody in Radio City Music Hall booed because they were like, let's get to pick number 2. We already know who's at number 1. But we sat there for like 10 minutes. And I was in the background like, I'm talking to my agent. I'm like, I've already signed the contract, right? Like, they can't. What's going on? Why won't they just announce this? And I think it was just, made for TV flair. Yeah. But everybody in Radio City Music Hall started booing. I was like, man, this is not off to a stellar start.
Well, as somebody who's hosted every draft since the one that happened after your drafting, Carson, it's a TV show, man. We can't just, cut to the chase. No. Come on, man.
You gotta get some excitement in the room for sure.
As I understand, you're nervous, and all the draft picks are nervous, and the fans want things to move. But the bottom line is, I've got to get my airtime. Who the hell do they think they are? Honestly,
Your face is too beautiful not to have in a big screen.
You understand it. You do understand it. You understand it. And plus, it's interesting that you said it's always interesting with a negotiation with the Bengals. I said the other day that the Bengals, if you had to rank the teams whose money is kept in a Velcro wallet that you hear open with a rip every single time it's the Bengals. They're number one on top of that list. And now it's time for Burrow to get paid. How do you think that's going to play out, Carson?
Well, it's been exciting. I think nobody's been more interested in the past 2 off seasons than Joe Burrow. He was wanting to see, after that Super Bowl loss to the Rams, where their offensive linemen were getting annihilated, he wanted to see what they were going to do. And really, for the first time in a long time, we saw the Bengals open up that Velcro wallet and revamp that offensive line last offseason. And really, they re-upped 60% of that offensive line in free agency and did something that we typically don't see the Bengals do. So nobody was more curious and more interested to see if they were going to continue to improve their team. After a year, they went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Rams, and they absolutely did it. They opened up their checkbooks. They redid and rebuilt that offensive line. The year prior to the Super Bowl year, they redid that entire defense. They went out and spent a ton of money in free agency on the defensive side of the ball. So it's really good to have seen them open up the checkbook, make sure they protect Joe, And now, hopefully, they're in the middle of figuring out a way to get a long-term deal done with Joe. And Joe's got to feel really comfortable about signing that next contract with the way that they've revamped these last two off seasons, free agency-wise.
Well, they also, actually sold the naming rights to their stadium. I imagine that's part of the reason. I mean, that has to be just putting two and two together. And the Bengals have built a team to last. And I love the coach, too, man. I think he knows, and the coaching staff, unfortunately, for them, for their personal aspirations, but fortunate for the team and the roster, haven't been poached for some reason. I don't get it.
It's a great scenario. There's a lot to be excited about. And then you factor in, I mean, for the last 10 or 15 years, the problem with the Bengals has been the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. They've been so good. They've done such a great job in free agency. They've drafted so well, and they were at the top of that conference and that division for a long time. Now things are in turmoil. We're not quite sure what we have in Pittsburgh with Cody Pick at the quarterback. There's a ton of questions in Baltimore with Lamar. So finally the Bengals, and Cleveland's Cleveland, right? So
nice. Finally
the Bengals are sitting really at the top of that division with really everything is wide open in front of them. The problem is the other teams in the AFC. You still have Mahomes in Kansas City. You got Herbert and with the Chargers. I mean, there's a lot of really good, talented young quarterbacks in the AFC. That's the biggest issue. For the Bengals, it's no longer the Baltimores and the Pittsburghs of the world.
Yeah, but they've got Burrow, and he's more consistent than Mahomes, right, Carson? I heard that. Who said that?
I think so.
Who said that?
I think so.
Who said that, Carson?
I said that. I need to defend myself. I got a lot of riffraff.
You did? I didn't notice that. I didn't notice.
I got a little bit of riffraff, but Joe's younger, and I was playing a game. It was during the playoffs when the Bengals were still playing.
Yes.
And Patrick Mahomes hadn't beaten two teams with one leg back to back in the AFC Championship and the Super Bowl. So it was prior to that. But
yes,
I was building my fantasy team. I was on my brother's podcast called The Room.
Yep.
And I said I get to pick a quarterback, an X receiver, a Z receiver, and a tight end. And
yes.
I picked almost all LSU, and Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Travis Kelce. And that was my. If I got to be a GM for a day, those were my picks. And I took a little heat for that, Rich. Did you stand up for me or did you pile on?
No, I just let them pile on. Please, come on, Carson. There's an I in Rich and Eisen. I'm looking out for myself. Now, I did actually say there had to be some reason for it, because I guess his one ankle wasn't as consistent as the other. I don't know. But so that's when you said it. You said it before Mahomes, did what he did. To wrap up the season?
On and won a Super Bowl with one leg, yeah.
Okay. So
you made me eat my words. And you know what? Hats off. But at the end of the day, I was comparing a Lamborghini to a Ferrari.
Yes. But it's sports talk radio, so you have to choose one of the over the other, Carson. You have to, right? So who do you choose?
Yeah, and if you say anything other than Patrick Mahomes is the greatest player in the history of players, you get roasted for it, and I got roasted. Deservedly so. Because then he went out and, like I said, he won a Super Bowl with one foot.
Well, Carson, I said last March the Raiders were going to win the division and kept pounding that drum all the way up until their 0-3 start. And then I kind of quieted down a little bit. So I get it. I'm going to Kansas City, and despite me retracting my words and apologizing to Chiefs Kingdom into this microphone that I'm currently talking to you through, they're going to let me hear it. I'm prepped to get that. But I'm glad that's it. What happened. I just thought you were on some other plant-based product other than Level Select OTC when you said it, Carson.
Only Level Select OTC for me, but I can't wait to watch it later this week, Rich. I always love watching you on draft week.
I appreciate that. Do you have any opinion of the quarterbacks available in this year's draft, Carson?
Not anything outside the ordinary. I mean, I think Bryce is the best quarterback in the draft. There's definitely some concerns. I mean, I've spent a little time around him. He is not a huge human being. Mm-hmm. He is on the smaller side. But when you go back and watch his games against really NFL talent in the SEC, and you watch the way he played with that Georgia defense in his face, harassing him every time he dropped back, what he doesn't have in size, you can just see it and sense it in heart. I mean, the kid plays way bigger than his body. He's extremely tough. He doesn't ever make excuses. He's got a great supporting cast around. I've spent a little time with him at different Heisman things with his parents. He's got, two parents that are in his corner that have raised him. He's made sacrifices. Hearing his story in high school, commuting an hour and a half to the high school he went to at Mater Dei. The kid is just a workhorse. He's got a huge heart. You'd love it if he was 6'4", 225. I think he's more like 6 foot, 200, which isn't great. But there have been some quarterbacks that at that size and stature that have had success. They've been outliers to the typical recipe of a big physical quarterback, like every other quarterback that's available in the draft behind Bryce. I just think, man, he's so savvy in the pocket. He's got all the arm talent you want. He's got all the velocity on the ball you want. He's extremely accurate underneath. He's extremely accurate in the middle of the field, and he can get to the outside edges of the field and really make defenses stretch and make defenses that are slow play catch-up, because he can really throw the ball at every level effectively, accurately, with the velocity. I just think all of those things outweigh his lack of size.
Well, and then Will Levis is supposedly shooting up boards where, he could be second overall. There's even a crazy rumor that Carolina's told him that they traded up for him. You have any opinion on him? I mean, he's rocked up. I mean, you talk about the way that he looks and throws. He has all of the arm strength and physical abilities, and I think maybe folks are wondering, could they get the next Josh Allen with him, Carson?
Yeah, if Bryce had that body, it would be
a wrap.
Unquestionable.
Right.
It'd be a wrap.
Yeah.
He'd sign tonight. Bryce's film is just that good. He's got a bunch of NFL talent around him on the defensive side of the ball as well. I know you're having one of his teammates on the show later today, and he's just surrounded with NFL talent, but the film is so good. And Will's film is good at Kentucky, and he is, he's a show pony. He's the way you want a guy to look. He tested off the charts, but Bryce's film is that much better. I think Bryce is the surefire number one, and I would say that of these four quarterbacks that everybody's talking about, two of them are going to get overdrafted. I think you're going to look back and say, man, that was a stretch at 4. He should have been 18 or 19 or 22 because of the potential. But Bryce is ready. Bryce can play week 1. All these other quarterbacks, they're going to take some development. They're going to take some time to really to mold and grow into successful NFL quarterbacks. But as far as the guy that's ready to play week 1, it's Bryce.
Do you have any connection with Caleb Williams? Have you spoken to him? Because I mean that's the guy you could just throw in like the first overall pick in next year's draft right now, with all due respect to Drake May and everyone else. What's your opinion of him?
I think he'd be the number 1 pick in this draft, unquestionably. I think it'd be him and then Bryce and then one of the other guys. But I mean, Caleb is the whole package. He's big enough, he's fast enough, he's quick enough. He's got so much velocity on the ball in the pocket. He's got even more velocity on the ball outside the pocket. He's mature beyond his years, and he's got a chance to go into next year's draft as a 2-time Heisman winner, which hasn't been done since Archie Griffith and whatever year that was decades ago.
Right.
I'm excited about Caleb's year, but I think from a pro NFL perspective, he has a chance to be one of the great ones, no doubt.
And so many people compare him to Patrick Mahomes, which means he's really consistent, right, Carson? So consistent with his play.
Hey, we almost saw Caleb do it on one leg when he tore his hamstring against
just like
Utah
against Utah. Yeah, pretty much.
Against Utah. So there are a lot of similarities between him and Patrick.
See, I'm trying to help you out.
Appreciate that.
Level Select OCT. Tell me about it, sir. What's going on?
Yes, Level Select OTC. You can go online right now at levelselect.com. You can find it in CVS pharmacies. You can find it on Amazon. If you've got aches, pains, bumps, bruises, it is something that helps you continue to stay active, to stay on, outside, run around with your kids, whatever it is, whatever activities you like doing. It takes that pain and that ache out. And I've got plenty of those from all my years of playing. And the Level Select OTC is something I use on a daily basis.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 53, man. I feel it. Maybe I should hop on this thing too.
You need some. I'll send you some.
Okay. This is great.
If you go online right now and type in the promo code Carson20, you get 20% off everything on the site.
Can you write that down for me, Chris? I don't have my pen right over here.
Yeah,
Carson20.
Carson 20.
Very good. Okay. And the 20 is because I get it. 20 years since you were drafted first overall.
20 years.
Look
there you
at
go
this.
again, making me feel old.
Well, that's why you have the level select OTC, right? You can bring it all full circle. Hey, I don't know the answer to this, so forgive me for asking it. Did you get suspended from Twitter, Carson? Did your account get suspended yesterday?
I've never been on. I don't think I'm on Twitter. Am I on Twitter?
Okay,
if I'm on Twitter, it's somebody else using my.
There you go.
My handle.
We were talking about it. See you later. To that person.
That's why.
Okay, very good. So you're not on Twitter. You're just living your life. You don't need this sort of.
I'm too old for Twitter.
So what does that make me at 53? A child? I'm a child.
But you look 23.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Best to your family. Susie sends her best. She always says, "Is Carson on?" Okay, say hello. So there you go.
Please send my best.
Right back to you, Carson. Thanks for the time. Always appreciate it.
Rich.
Love chatting with you. That's Carson Palmer, everybody. Carson 20. Pop that in there and you get 20% off of Level Select OTC products. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.